It all started on a Tuesday, the most beige day of the week. Kevin, a man whose greatest ambition was to correctly guess the amount of milk left for his morning cereal, discovered a horrifying void in his perfectly organized kitchen cabinet, the Tupperware. His favorite one, the one with the slight less scratch than the other's lid, was gone. A lesser man would have sighed and used a bowl with plastic wrap, but not Kevin. Oh no, Kevin was a man of principle, and principle dictated that this injustice could not stand. His first suspect was Brenda from next door. She had borrowed a cup of sugar last week and had that look, the one that says, "I appreciate the sugar, but I secretly covet your superior food storage solutions." Kevin, now a self-proclaimed detective, began his surveillance. He spent hours peering through his blinds, noting Brenda's every move. She watered her petunias. She brought in the mail. She engaged in a suspicious 10-minute conversation with a squirrel. Was the squirrel an accomplice? A furry little lookout. Kevin's evidence board, a cork board hastily commandeered from his home office, was already filling up with string and cryptic notes like squirrel, shifty eyes, and petunias. 2 perfect days turned into a week, and the Tupperware remained at large. Kevin's investigation deepened. He started following Brenda at a safe, non-creepy distance, of course. He tailed her to the supermarket, where she bought an alarming quantity of kale. Was she planning to store it? Perhaps in a newly acquired, medium-sized plastic container. The plot thickened, like improperly made gravy. He then followed her to a clandestine meeting in a park. Her contact was a man in a trench coat and a fedora, which was a bold-fashioned choice for a sunny afternoon. They exchanged a small, heavy-looking package. Kevin's heart raced. Was it the Tupperware, filled with something illicit like black market marmalade? He needed to get closer, disguising himself as a pigeon enthusiast, a hobby he researched for a full 5 minutes on the internet. Kevin sidled up to a nearby bench, scattering breadcrumbs with what he hoped was an air of casual expertise. The man in the fedora spoke in hushed tones, something about a delivery and the big cheese. Kevin's mind exploded with possibilities. Was Brenda part of an underground dairy cartel? Was the Tupperware a vessel for transporting rare, unregulated cheeses across state lines? It was all starting to make a terrifying amount of sense. The kale was just a cover, a healthy, green diversion. The investigation went global. A discarded travel brochure from Brenda Sasselingben led Kevin to believe she was part of an international syndicate. The Tupperware was no longer just a Tupperware. It was a symbol, a key, a MacGuffin of unparalleled domestic importance. Kevin, using his life savings and a suspiciously flexible credit card, booked a flight. He had to beat them to the drop. He found himself in a bustling bazaar in a country he could not pronounce, following a woman who vaguely resembled Brenda's second cousin, whom he had seen once at a barbecue. The trail was hot, or at least lukewarm. He navigated ancient alleyways, deciphered cryptic symbols that turned out to be restaurant menus, and bribed street performers for information they did not have. He was a regular James Bond. If James Bond's primary concern was the retrieval of kitchenware, he ended up in a high-stakes poker game in the back room of a spice shop, convinced the pot contained not money, but a coded map leading to the Tupperware's location. He went all in, with a pair of sevens and a confident bluff. He lost his watch and his return ticket, but he overheard a crucial whisper. "The Penguin is waiting at the docks." The Penguin, of course. This must be the Cody name for the Big Cheese's boss, the head of the entire operation. Kevin, now wearing a disguise fashioned from a tablecloth and a lampshade, snuck down to the city's industrial port. The air was thick with salt and intrigue. He saw him, a portly man in a tuxedo, surrounded by what were clearly his henchmen. They were loading a crate onto a submarine. A submarine. Things had escalated beautifully. This was it, the final showdown. The crate must contain a legion of stolen Tupperware, a plastic army destined for some nefarious purpose. Kevin, fueled by 3 days of no sleep and an unhealthy amount of gas station coffee, decided to act. He swung onto the submarine using a loose mooring rope. Landing with the grace of a sack of potatoes, he confronted the Penguin, shouting, "I know about the Tupperware. I know about the big cheese. It is over." The Penguin looked at him, utterly bewildered. His henchmen paused. One of them was holding an actual penguin, a live, waddling penguin. The Penguin, the man in the tuxedo, sighed. He said, "I am Professor Attenborough, a marine biologist. This is Berkey. We are taking him to a sanctuary. The Big Cheese is the name of the boat. It is my daughter's nickname for me. She thinks I look like a walrus. Defeated, dejected, and deeply confused about the logistics of transporting a live penguin, Kevin trudged home. His grand conspiracy, his international chase, his entire world of intrigue had collapsed into a puddle of absurdity. He arrived back at his quiet, suburban street. Expecting nothing, he opened his front door, and there, sitting on his kitchen counter, was the Tupperware. A note was attached. It read, "Found this in my car. Must have rolled under the seat when you gave me a lift to the garden center last month. Sorry for the delay. I was on a cruise. Cheers, Brenda." Kevin stared at the Tupperware. He stared at the note. He had not given Brenda a lift. He did not even own a car. He had a bicycle. With a wicker basket, he picked up the Tupperware. He turned it over, and on the bottom, in faint, barely visible letters, it said, "Property of Todd." Kevin did not know a Todd. He had never known a Todd. This was not his Tupperware. His Tupperware was still missing. All of it. The international espionage. The penguin. The big cheese, the near-death experiences involving questionable street food, all for someone else's leftover container. The disappointment was so profound, so utterly magnificently pointless. It was almost a work of art, a masterpiece of anticlimax. The twist was not that Brenda had it. The twist was not that it was part of a global conspiracy. The twist was that the entire 2-week, globe-trotting, life-ruining saga was for nothing. Absolutely, totally, and hilariously nothing. And there you have it. A story that proves the journey is not always worth the destination, especially when the destination is someone else's lunchbox. If you enjoyed this spectacular exercise in futility, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for more underwhelming revelations.